Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're reaching the end of our journey through Bruce's story.
Yeah, it's been quite something.
It really has. We're focusing now on the final two chapters of his book, Episode 15, Claiming My Truth. That's chapters 30 and 31.
Exactly. And we'll be pulling in those running themes we've been tracking all along.
Right. For anyone who's been following along, you'll know we've seen Bruce go through so much.
Oh, absolutely. That toxic shame we talked about, the impact of those early experiences really amplified later.
And the system failures.
Yeah.
Just repeated disappointments, real harm from places that should have helped.
Yeah, and his struggle, that constant fight just to hold on to his identity against the trauma, the false accusations, it's been central.
We've seen those moments of connection too, though, those glimpses of healing.
Definitely. But also his fight, just not to be erased.
So our mission for this final deep dive, really, is to pull out the key takeaways from these last chapters and from the whole series, I suppose.
And to kind of process the emotional impact, right? Understand the lasting effects of all this injustice.
Exactly. Find some sense of closure, maybe, but mostly get a deeper grasp of what he's carried. Okay, chapter 30. Still haunted. Still here. It starts with a spark of hope, doesn't it? Getting that job at Freedom House.
Yeah, it felt huge, like maybe finally a step back into his career, a place where his past wasn't the first thing they saw.
You really felt that possibility,
Yeah.
like this could be it.
You did, but then it just gets pulled away, let go, no explanation.
That silence again, it echoes, doesn't it?
It really does, and having to go back on Social Security disability, the shame he talks about, it's that cycle again.
Systemic failure, like we've discussed.
Yeah.
The system itself creating these barriers,
Yeah.
even if unintentionally.
Precisely, it just keeps happening.
But then, another door seems to open. Early September 2024, RHD calls. They want to hire him.
Right. You can just imagine feeling, oh yeah, maybe this time, after everything, that hope surges back.
I think listeners probably felt that too, that sort of holding your breath feeling.
Yeah. And then, inevitably, the background check.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
It's never simple for Bruce, is it? It becomes this whole other ordeal.
Re-traumatizing, really. He gives them the statement of truth, the letter from the Rape Crisis Center, same stuff Freedom House had.
You'd think that would count for something. Build some trust.
You would. But no. It's this long delay. Legal needs to confirm things he's already told them.
And he can't even easily contact old colleagues. The phone's wiped. It shows how these procedures may be meant to protect the organization.
Yeah, liability concerns and all that.
Right. They end up hurting the individual again, repunishing him almost.
And then the absolute kicker. HR says Freedom House, never heard of him. Oh, wow. Just erased. Disbelieved. Imagine how that feels.
Utterly crushing. To be made invisible like that again.
Yeah. And he describes walking on Wrightsville Beach while waiting, the waves crashing.
Yeah, I remember that part. He's 58, facing this same uncertainty on a beach with memories of Lynn, of a different life he might have had.
It just lands the personal cost of these bureaucratic hurdles. It's immense.
So then RHD offers this compromise.
Compromising quotes, yeah. It's framed as a chance, but it feels punitive.
A job in a program for people leaving prison.
Yeah.
Heavy supervision. Can't meet clients alone.
Just think about that. This man dedicated his life to helping, now treated like a risk, automatically distrusted.
Even though he never committed a violent crime, never hurt anyone.
It shows how past trauma, even false accusations, can just stick, leading to these assumptions, these restrictions.
It's that stigma again, deeply embedded. So a month on administrative leave first.
Right. Then constant monitoring, Wendy and Andre, the supervisors.
And it sounds less like support and more like scrutiny, looking for mistakes.
Totally. Weekly check-ins becoming interrogations, getting written up for small things. A toxic environment.
And the presence of Andre specifically.
Oh, that was huge. He links it directly back to the terror of his arrest in 2004. That feeling of being accused, disbelieved by authority.
To feel that again, but from within the mental health system itself.
It's incredibly re-traumatizing. The system meant to heal becomes another source of that same fear and distrust for him.
So Bruce tries the official route. Files for ADA accommodations, PTSD, gets letters from doctors.
Just asking for dignity, basically. Acknowledging the impact of his trauma.
But it leads nowhere. Termination. March 14, 2025. No explanation, no appeal, just done.
The finality of it, after all that, after every flicker of hope, devastating.
And his emotional state afterwards.
Yeah.
He talks about losing that drive to help others.
Yeah, that really stood out. That shift towards needing care himself, needing support, After years of pushing outwards, he has to turn inwards.
But even then, even in that low point, he still mentions peer support, connection.
That belief is still there somehow. That resilience is quite something.
It really is. So the big takeaway from chapter 30 seems to be that shadow from 2004 just won't lift.
No, it's not just legal stuff. It's in how people see him, the assumptions they make, even people who might want to help.
Systemic barriers, liability fears,
Yeah.
they just seem to override everything else.
Yeah, they override individual assessment, basic fairness, really, even when someone has been completely transparent.
It's incredibly frustrating to read. And the chapter ends, not with the win, but with truth.
Exactly. He's still unemployed, unsure about the future because of background checks, assumptions, but he's still here.
Still writing, still telling his truth.
And that act of telling the story, that refusal to be silenced, it feels like a form of justice in itself, a way of being seen.
Which leads us right into chapter 31, claiming my truth.
Mm-hmm. And you feel a shift right away in this chapter.
Yeah, how so?
It's like he stops trying to explain, not because it hurts less or the injustice is gone, but because he knows who he is now.
That internal shift, that self-knowledge.
Yes, and that opening line just hits you. I am not what they said I was. I don't have to win back trust because I never broke it.
Wow, that's powerful. Reclaiming his narrative entirely.
Completely. It's not about their judgment anymore. It's about his truth.
And he lists his values.
Yes.
Gentleness, integrity, compassion.
Yes. Respect for boundaries. These aren't defenses. They're just who he's been all along. The core of him, standing against those false narratives.
It reminded me of that earlier point about the therapist calling him gentle. He notes here that it wasn't a defense. It was just true.
Exactly. A fundamental truth that got buried under everything else.
And there's this move from just surviving to wanting to actually live.
Yeah, not to prove anything to anyone, just because he still has something to give. It feels like real self-acceptance taking root. A renewed purpose, maybe.
Even with all the external stuff still unresolved.
Right. And then that inner voice starts to come through, the one that was buried under all the pain and shame.
Oh yeah, those lines are incredible.
So clear, so strong. You are not your trauma.
You are not what they assumed.
You are not the roles others cast you in.
You are a good person with passion and love to give.
You are still here, still standing, still healing. Each one feels like reclaiming ground.
Definitely. And then the very last line of the whole book.
And that is more than enough.
Chills. It's so simple, but lands with such weight.
It really does. It feels like this profound, hard-won peace. Claiming his own worth, finally, regardless of what anyone else says or does.
Independent of the outcomes, the legal battles, everything. It's like the ultimate statement of self-acceptance.
True healing coming from within, not from waiting for the outside world to validate him.
Yeah. So, looking back at the whole series now, pulling it all together,
Yeah.
what are the big takeaways that stand out for you? Using our theme guide, maybe.
Well, obviously, the sheer destructive power of toxic shame and how systemic injustice just pours fuel on that fire.
Absolutely. That link is undeniable throughout.
And the repeated failures of the justice system, the emotional toll that takes is just immense. We saw that over and over.
And the identity struggle. How do you hold on to yourself when you're constantly being defined by trauma and false labels?
Right. That's been a huge part of his journey.
Then there's connection. So vital, so healing with people like Celta, Lynn, Thomas, Kira, but also so painful when it breaks down or isn't believed.
That bittersweet quality, yeah. And his resilience, though, just fundamentally refusing to be erased.
Even through the stigma, the isolation, the despair, moments where he clearly struggled immensely.
Immensely. But alongside that, the power of finding his voice. Writing this book, sharing his story, that feels like a huge part of the healing and a challenge to the injustice itself.
And seeing how much those moments of compassion mattered when someone actually believed him, supported him, how crucial that was.
It really highlights the importance of just believing people, interrupting that cycle.
And finally, that ongoing rebuilding, finding meaning through writing, peer support, community. It's not like everything's fixed, but he's building something new.
Yeah, that process continues. You feel it right to the end.
So emotionally, how does wrapping this up leave you feeling?
Frustrated. Definitely frustrated, maybe angry at the injustices, the sheer unfairness of it all.
Yeah, me too. A lot of anger.
And deep empathy, obviously, for the pain he's carried, but also hope. Inspired, I guess, by his resilience. That final declaration of self-worth is really powerful.
I feel that too. That profound frustration, just wanting things to have been different for him. but also just immense respect for his strength, his refusal to give up on his truth.
Yeah.
And that final line, "and that is more than enough," just stays with you. It feels like such an important statement of self-worth.
It really does. It's personal, but it's also a challenge, isn't it? A challenge to the narratives forced on him. It makes us think about our own assumptions.
It really does.
Yeah.
So as we finish this deep dive into Bruce's story, maybe a final thought for our listeners.
Go for it.
After seeing Bruce fight for so long just to have his truth recognized, what does enough actually mean? When we think about healing, about justice, for individuals and for the systems themselves.
That's a big question. And maybe building on that, Bruce's story shows the huge, often hidden cost of when systems fail. So what's our responsibility? How do we challenge our own assumptions, try to understand other people's experiences more deeply and more compassionately?
Heavy questions, but important ones.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us into Bruce's incredibly important story.